Really? Yeah.
Hello.
You didn't get that part that I said back later.
Pardon me?
After the mayor's speech. After the mayor's speech. So right. I can stand by the side. Are you going to have a seat? Hi, how are you? Yeah, we are.
Wow, don't do that. I was so sick.
Sorry.
Oh, no problem.
There you are. Hey, Grandpa.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the City of Milpitas, I want to welcome you here today to this very auspicious occasion, the renaming of Yellowstone Park to its new name that we will be assuming in just a few minutes, which is the Robert E. Browne Park. Before we get started, I want to first thank Tom Williams, our city manager, and his staff for arranging all of this today. Any event that we do takes a lot of time and a lot of energy, so Tom, we appreciate all the work that you and your people have done. I want to introduce to you a couple of my colleagues on the Milpitas City Council, and they will be making some brief remarks here today. We have with us our Vice Mayor, Pete McHugh. And we have also with us Council Member Armando Gomez. Armando, thank you for being here. So again, welcome everybody. I want to make a few brief remarks today, and then I'm going to allow my fellow council members to make a couple of remarks. We're going to hear from the Browne family for just a few moments, and then after that we're of course going to do the unveiling of the new sign, which I must say I've already seen, Vicki. I came by and snuck a look at it earlier. So,
Did they put the E on the end?
I am one of those fortunate people that had the opportunity to serve with Bob Browne on the Milpitas City Council. I know that Mr. McHugh did as well, and Mr. Gomez and the other members of our council got to know Bob later on in his service to the citizens of Milpitas. But I consider myself a very fortunate person to have had that opportunity. Bob was a mentor of mine. He was on the city council when I first became council member in 1975, and I remember him for a lot of different things. First off, I know that Bob was a trailblazer. He was the very first council member elected from Parktown. And of course, that's where we stand here today in this development. Many people who moved to Milpitas later don't realize that Parktown was named for the fact that you are never more than about a block from a city park. And the way the loop system of these streets go, that happens to be the case. So I know Bob was a trailblazer in that he was the first council member from Parktown, and since then we've had most of our city council members have come from Parktown. So he kind of laid the groundwork for many of us to come after him. And of course, as you know, Bob and Vicki and their family lived just one block over here for his time here in Milpitas, so this was an area that obviously was very important to him. Bob Browne was also a gentleman who was an ethical council member. There was never any question about his motives, about why he did things. He did things only and always voted only in what he thought was in the best interest of the citizens, and his own interests were never played a role in any of the things that he did. He was a very unselfish man. He gave a lot of his time, of course, to his family first and foremost, but also to the citizens of Milpitas. And I remember I had a conversation with Bob not long after I became a council member, and he sat me down and he said, I want to tell you a little bit about what's going to happen to you in your career if you choose to continue to serve as a council member. And I'm sure, Vicki, he had these conversations with you, and he told me that he was convinced on a couple of occasions he actually got passed up for promotions because his bosses felt that the time he spent serving citizens maybe took him away a little bit from his full-time job. But in spite of that, in spite of knowing that that was going to have an impact on his career, Bob continued to serve the citizens of Milpitas. So he was an unselfish person, and I know many of you, I see many city employees here today, and former city employees, and you remember the time and energy that Bob would put into the retirement ceremonies for many of you, and for others. He always was ready with a poem of sorts, a song. He was a very talented musician, as we all know, and Bob was the first one to step up and volunteer his time and his talents. Bob was a man who had very good political instincts. He was one of those politicians who could think like the average citizen, not like a politician. He always looked at things through the prism of what the average citizen was thinking. And that was one of the reasons for his success. Bob was one of those few politicians who in this city had served and was elected for 3 full city council terms. He also served 3 terms as mayor. And I wanted to make one other comment about his political instincts, because one of the things I remember best about Bob was in 1976 we were in Milpitas, was a very rough political waters. And we had a mayor at the time who was recalled from office, and at the time I was the vice mayor, and Bob and I sat down, and his political instincts became very clear to me when he and I and some of the other council members thought with such a rough and stormy waters politically that Bob Browne was the best man to lead the city in 1976 because of his experience, his understanding of the issues. And I was happy to be able to say, yes, Bob Browne was. So in those last 2 years, Bob served as our mayor from 1976 to 1978, and his political instincts were right. Finally, the thing I remember about Bob, and many of you do, was his sense of humor. I kind of alluded to it a moment ago. At Bob's memorial service, I think it was Vicky that referred to his sense of humor as somewhat lowbrow, and that would be somewhat true. It was not terribly sophisticated, as you all remember. But I wanted to impart upon you, as I close my remarks, when we talk about Bob's sense of humor, I think back to a council meeting in 1976, and at the time, the mayor was Joe House. He was just getting ready to leave office. Joe had served for many years with Bob, and as you all know, the mayor is responsible for issuing proclamations and commendations. So Joe House was a little bit more straight-laced than Bob Browne was, certainly, and probably me too. But the mayor, Mr. House, was up in front of the council, and he was reading a proclamation with a lot of where-tos and therefores, and it was all about rewarding and commendating Alcoholics Anonymous, which is a group that we all know does great work in helping those people with problems with alcoholism. And the mayor went on at some length about thanking Alcoholics Anonymous, and he got to the end and he said, therefore I, Joe House, want to commend this group, this Alcoholics Anonymous, for their work for alcoholics. And without missing a beat, Bob Browne chimed in and said, Mr. Mayor, I'll drink to that. And we all kind of looked at each other and said, okay. But Bob knew that while the work that we did was serious, while it was important, Bob knew that we could not take ourselves too seriously, and that we had to always keep our sense of humor intact. And it was a joy for me to have worked with Bob. It was a privilege, and I will always remember the days that I spent working with Bob Browne as a councilman and as a mayor. So, with that, I would like to introduce a couple of people here. My colleagues will want to say just a couple of words, and then we're going to hear from the Browne family before we do the actual unveiling. So, please let me introduce Vice Mayor Pete McHugh. Pete?
I am very happy to be here with you today as we honor the memory of Bob Browne and the good works that he and his family did. I reflect upon the many warm memories. Bob touched upon them. The retirement events were excellent, where he would compose a poem, and then he would also play, I believe it was the banjo. A very, very good and warm person. And the other thing, and Bob already mentioned it, is he did make sacrifices in his career, and he knew that to serve the people. So I am proud that I had a chance to know him and his family. Truly a good man. That's the great thing about Milpitas, the people. I think we have more than our share of good folks, and Bob was one of the best examples of that. So, Vicki, I thank you and your family for sharing him for so long with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pete. I wanted to mention somebody earlier this morning, it was a little bit cloudy, and they said to me on the phone, well, boy, I hope it doesn't rain. I said, don't worry about that. I'm very sure that Bob made it very clear to the powers that be that there will be no rain on October the 17th at 10 a.m. in Milpitas. Kind of end of story. I would now like to introduce for a few comments Councilmember Armando Gomez. Armando?
You know, I unfortunately only had the opportunity of meeting Bob and talking to Bob on a few occasions, but I'll tell you, those times you did talk to him really can stick in your mind. And I'm thinking back to the very first time I talked to him and met him was about 9 years ago when I was knocking on doors and running for office, and he, just a few words for me, he just said, hey, look, I love the city, and don't mess it up. And put a little bit of fear in me, but you know, now that I think about it, Bob did love the city, and I'm sure you're going to hear from the family, you've heard from the vice mayor as well as the mayor. And you know, I just really want to thank the family for sharing. And every time, I guess, when you're in public office, every time you go to a meeting or you go to an event, it really takes time away from home. And I want to thank the opportunity, or thank the family for really sharing a great man with us. So thank you very much, Vicki, and everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Armando. I want to now, of course, an event like this, we're going to hear from Bob's family, and they have designated young Mr. Daniel Browne, Bob's grandson, to make some remarks on the family. Mr. Browne.
I only have half of a Gettysburg today. Hold on one second. I know I used that joke twice, I'm sorry. On behalf of myself and my family, I would like to thank everyone for being here today. I would especially like to thank the mayor, Bob Livengood, as well as the Milpitas City Council and city workers for making this historic day possible for all of us. It is truly an honor to be standing here today dedicating this park to the memory of my grandfather, Robert E. Browne. I assure you that my grandfather's legacy and leadership of our family will never be forgotten, even as the years go by. And today, this dedication will ensure that the city my grandfather loved and served spiritedly for more than 20 years will never forget his legacy either. We are all here today because Robert Browne touched our lives in some way, be it through service to his country, city, or one of the countless endeavors he took on in his 83 years on Earth. However, I am truly humbled that the great city of Milpitas would go to such extraordinary lengths to honor a man I knew simply as Grandpa. He was not a man that craved the spotlight. However, when given the opportunity, he never disappointed while in it. He was a humble man of quiet faith that never needed any adoration, but was one that definitely deserved it. My grandfather was never at a loss for words, but I'm sure if he were here today to see himself honored in a way such as this, he would only be able to muster a simple thank you in his usual soft, comforting tone. That's just the kind of man he was. A patriot, a loving father and brother, a caring grandfather and husband, an eager civil servant, a hero, but mostly a friend to anyone who ever met him. The significance of this park being dedicated to his memory is vast. My grandfather lived in this neighborhood his entire time in Milpitas. Personally, this park has always been a bridge between our two households. My mother and family live on Mount Diablo, and my grandmother lives on Saratoga Drive. I walk through this park on a daily basis, and the steps I've taken in this park are countless. It's truly humbling to know from now on we will be stepping in a park named after the patriarch of our family. I assure the city that maintaining this park will not be an issue, as I will personally give anyone caught defiling this park a thorough talking to. In lieu of physical violence or verbal abuse, I recommend this park be on the same cleaning schedule as all the other parks in the city. Milpitas, Parktown in particular, is so wonderful because of all the parks in the neighborhood. It is great to know my grandfather is in his rightful place alongside other well-known leaders in the city's rich history. Thank you again from the bottom of my heart, as well as the hearts of all of my family, for properly recognizing the greatness of Robert Browne. We were fortunate enough to experience it on a daily basis. We love you, Grandpa. You will be missed, but never forgotten. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Daniel. That was excellent. Okay, we have come at a point now where this park, and by the way, we're here at the front of the park. This park is one of the most beautiful and one of the most used parks in all the city of Milpitas. It goes all the way up. You can see the tennis courts up there. And in fact, in a couple of years, with the help of the council, we're going to be doing some renovations here and improving the level of service so that Bob Browne Park will be used by even more people than it is used by today. So we're very happy about that. Now, we are going to have, as I said, it is now time to change the name of this park. And we're going to have Daniel, if you will help your grandmother, Vicky, and Mr. Gomez and Mr. McHugh, if you'll follow me over. We're going to do the unveiling. And anybody else from the Browne family would like to go over there, you're welcome to do so.
Just let it be your immediate family. We'll get one later with everybody.
We have some family now.
Okay, everybody, on the count of three, we're going to unveil the park. It will now be the Robert E. Browne Park. With an E. Right. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. Hi, how you doing? Good to see you. We're going to sure, absolutely. We just Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being here today. We're going to be taking some pictures with the family now. But again, on behalf of the city, I want to thank all of you for being here today and enjoy the rest of this beautiful Saturday in the Robert E. Browne Park. Thank you all very much.
Before anybody leaves, I just wanted to make sure that you all know that you're invited to my mom's house, which is right at the end of Saratoga Drive on the corner. For those of you that don't know where it is, we have 2.5 gallons of coffee and about 500 bagels. So please come over and eat some. So as soon as the photos are done, it's the White House on the corner by the park by the Ivy.
What's that? Yeah, I do. It's in a box though. Plus my head is growing a lot. I don't know. I didn't control that much.
I do. Absolutely.
Family. Nice talk.
Well, thank you very much.
I live around the corner and I used to call your grandpa mayor way after he wasn't mayor, and he chuckles. He laughed because I haven't heard that for a long time. And I want to tell you that my grandpa in Mexico, in a little town called Guerrero, state of Guerrero, and my grandmother, when I went, I was 30, and I went, I took my little kids 9 and 12, and my grandma was thrilled with her 40-watt bulb in her house. Oh, she had turtle and fried beef in a little storerooms. She was thrilled with a 40-watt bulb. It made me appreciate my electricity, my 40-watt unit, which is a 40-watt. Dark little kitchen. She was thrilled. Oh, she was thrilled. And so he's the mayor, and he'll always be just like your grandpa. Okay? So he'll always be Mayor Browne. I've been here 45 years. 45 years in August. Yeah. So your mom and dad been living here how long? Longer than 20 years, right? Oh, okay. Okay, so I bought it like 45. So living here. Are you guys? No. Oh, okay. Okay, well, nice talk. Okay, take care. Okay.
I gotta go get the picture on the shot. Take the other side.
Well, the side's not going to be very well. We already have to. And they're blocking the side.
Blocking the Robert.
He's blocking the whole Robert for me. Doug. Yeah, that's better. Good. I'm a 17-year-old studying engineering. Packaging engineering, more specifically. Yeah. Oh, really? Honey, I want a picture with you. Will you have your picture?
Sure. Fine, still got 40 minutes.
You can upload them. Oh, okay. My grandpa from there, I was going to see you next week.
Yeah, go take a picture.
You know where the Cantrells went to? I didn't even know they were here. They were. I haven't seen them. Parents were here, but Tim called right when the mayor started talking, and he said I just got up.
Oh,
So,
great.
And earlier, Mr. Cantrell said he probably isn't up yet. So I called him and said, "Yep, sure enough, he wasn't up yet."
Oh.
And so I told him to just come to the house.
Yeah,
The mayor was talking right now.
well, you can watch the video highlights later, I guess.
Well, either they name it now or wait until one of us runs for mayor. I don't think I'm running for mayor though, because I'm not tenacious. You could get a shot of some of the political dignitaries.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I got all of your family.
And of course, there would be a blooper if you filmed like the president of Vietnam randomly for like 10 minutes. But I don't think he's here.
Before you gag and
Alright, let's go to the house. Hey, Jeff, whenever you're ready.
Let's do that here. Okay. Where's the stand? Mommy.
You're going to share with us, I hope.
Oh, this isn't even my camera. This is.
It's not just summery weather. It's like October.
It's okay. It's a sign in a park. It's gonna get lots of spots.
Wait a minute.
It needs wide glasses. Did he whittle it himself? I still admire it. He did it himself on the porch. See you later. Take care.
Next year, November.
Yeah, you might
Have a great rest of your weekend.
I'm going to watch too, but
So.
Pretty flashy. What? Check salary. Do a salary check.
There's some people out there playing.
Yeah, so this is the park. Couldn't ask for a nicer day.
And that over there used to be the Bush Fort, where we used to play when we were kids. Well, before you, but a little bit.
Well,
A little bit before you.
not too much.
Not before Tim and Jim, though.
Oh yeah.
My sister Moni and Dad played tennis over. Courts put in. So this is the park. What's left of the Bush Fort. Across the way. Brings up nice.
God only gave me so.
Oh
yeah, he's like really sprouted, man.
Kind of like that time I saw Tommy at the when Tommy was here at San Jose State in the 90s. And he was like bigger. He was like huge.
I've never seen one outside.
I hear it. I'm hearing that.
Oh, here they are. I knew we had a stack of them somewhere.
8 years ago, in a couple of days it'll be 8 years. But I'm doing good. I have the park. I enjoy the park, and I haven't done a lot of walking lately, but I enjoy it as often as I can make it.
We were just like, the other day, like somebody threw a cigarette and then it like went into flames. But that was so really scary.
Well, because I figured that. That movie, Indiana Jones and the where the bridge gets moved.
That was it. That's how to work on self-control. Well, there you go.
So I mailed back to Mom. Don't have a box.
If they get soiled somehow, whatever. Still coffee or, you know, do something around to clean up, still leaves a spot on the carpet. So they come in and clean it, and they do a good job, and it's clean a day or two later.
It's Dan from. It's Big Dan and Big Tim, and Big Tim and Big Dan.
I'm taller now.
There's a little Danny.
And if I lower the camera down, you look like a Titanic huge colossus.
Want to film you?
I win.
If I must.
What? Can't back up. It's John who's been filming it. Yay! Thank you, John.
It's extraneous footage that has nothing to do with anything. There you go.
It's Tim and Annie. Hey.
Well, you can watch the video highlights later, I guess.